Welcome to Running for Real, a global community with a shared love and curiosity for running. Together we reconnect with the reasons why we love to run and discover ways it helps us become better people. Whether it's the quiet moments of a morning run while the rest of the world still sleeps, or befriending the strangers next to you at the start line of a race, we are here to connect with others who see running as the common thread that weaves our lives together. Come join me, Tina Muir, as I talk with people from all walks of life, united by a love of running. Hello, my friends. Welcome to episode 432 of the Running for Real podcast. Thank you so much for joining me today. And we have a really inspiring guest on today. I'm excited to welcome Olivia Baker to the podcast. Olivia is a wicked fast 800 meter runner. You're going to hear she's had a pretty successful career from being a teenager all the way through. However, when it's come to the biggest stage, she has often struggled. And we talk a lot about that today. Just bad timing, things going wrong in the moment, and how she adapts to that. She's also the coordinator for marketing and member engagement at Atlanta Track Club. And so it has a lot to offer on those insights as well. So let's check in with one of our sponsors before we go right to this episode with Olivia Baker. Friends, did you see the exciting news at the end of last year? Runna was one of the top 3 finalists for Apple for one of the best apps of the year in the health and fitness category. Such an amazing accomplishment and not a surprise. I've been telling you for months about how important Runna is to our community, how many people it has helped. It is the #1 rated running coaching app in the world, and they are on a mission to make running as easy, effective, and enjoyable as possible. They do this through creating personalized running plans for all abilities, ranging from those who are beginning their running journeys to elite runners. All plans are built by Olympic athletes and expert coaches. As I have told you, they have the strength and conditioning plans in there. They have integrated mobility and Pilates plans in there. So you have everything you need in one place. They even have calendar syncing so it can put it into your calendar what you have going on. In addition to that, it will adapt and change your training plan based on how things are going for you as an individual. It is just an awesome app to have. That's spelled Runna, spelled R-U-N-N-A. That's Runna. You can find it in the App Store. And as a friend of mine, you can get 2 weeks for free. So go to find the Runna app in the App Store, R-U-N-N-A, and use code RUNNINGFORREAL to get yourself 2 weeks for free from Runna. Go check it out. Friends, one more thing before we get into today's episode. I want to share something exciting with you. It is almost springtime and we're ready to kick it off in the best way possible with the Boston Run Show and the Boston Outdoor Expo, which are together for the first time ever on March 1st and 2nd at the BCEC in the Seaport. Whether you're planning your next race, running goals, camping trip, hiking, biking, or mountain adventure, this event is packed with inspiration and activities for the whole family. It's the ultimate day out with incredible value and fun for everyone. So what is that? You can shop over 200 brands and you can hear from running legends like Des Linden, Meb Keflezighi, Dave McGillivray, myself, trail running heroes like Lazarus Lake, Dylan Bowman, and more. You can also meet outdoor legends like alpinist Conrad Anker, Alone's Jesse Krebs, and bushcraft expert Tim Swanson. There's so much more. You can test your skills on this new climbing wall. They have a pump track and a trail running zone. You can book out races in the race village, get your gait analysis and shoes fitted. You can donate your pre-loved shoes to Souls for Souls. You know, I'm a big fan of that part. You can chill out with Zen yoga or dive into adventure with ice baths and bushcraft workshops. You can join shakeouts and come for a plugging run with myself. So mark your calendars for March 1st to 2nd and join us for an unforgettable weekend of fun, fitness, and family-friendly activities. Tickets, here's the best part. Tickets are free until mid-February. So that's free till mid-February. So you have a few weeks to get a hold of these. Afterwards, they will be $20. So go ahead and grab them up fast. I will put a link in the show notes to go to thebostonrunshow.com and use code TMUIR. That's TMUIR to get it for free till mid-February. I can't wait to see you there. Olivia, thank you so much for joining me today on the Running For Real podcast. I'm excited that you are here. Thanks for joining me.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Tina. It's an honor to be a guest on your podcast.
Yeah, well, right back at you, because we have flipped the script, because you and I met when you had me on the Atlanta Track Club podcast. Is that the name of it?
The Runners Who Read podcast.
Runners Who Read. That was the branch of it. Yes. And we met then, and I kind of followed along with what you've been doing, who you were after that, and I was like, I'd love to have Olivia on to talk about your story. Wanted to wait a little bit of time. I know we're going to go into some of this, but the pinnacle of what would have been last year maybe didn't work out how you hoped, and I know how that can go myself. That I like to give people some time, not only because of just sensitivity when trials don't go as well as we like, but also just because I feel like at this kind of point, when some time has passed, you can then have the real reflections and thinking about what you learned. And so this is a good time to do it. So I want to begin by asking you a question of, if we remove the word runner from Olivia, tell us about Olivia. If running if you're not allowed to mention the word running or runner or anything like that.
Yeah. Well, that's a great question. Actually, I think where do I want to begin? I guess if you took runner away from me, a couple of things I would say about myself are, I love medicine. When my running career is finished, I used the word running. We're taking running out.
It's hard to do.
It is, isn't it? I want to be a doctor.
Yeah.
Those are my aspirations. Hobbies. I love to read. As you mentioned, I had you on my Runners Who Read podcast I do with Atlanta Track Club, because we were reading your book, Becoming a Sustainable Runner.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I love Formula One racing.
Yeah.
I've had a need for speed since I was little. And I think in kindergarten, when they asked everyone, what do you want to be when you grow up? Everyone said the president or a lawyer or a doctor. And I was like, I want to be a Formula One driver.
I love that.
Of course, that never happened. And I have settled for running instead, which has been the absolute journey of a lifetime and a lot of fun as well.
Yeah, as it is. Well, I will give you an A- in your description of you without a runner. Just slipped in at the end there. However, I get how difficult that is, because it was so intertwined with everything you're doing and everything that not only you do within your life as a professional, but also just as part of your career, your job currently. As you said, you have that goal of medicine, and we'll go into that in a little bit. You started running when you were 8 years old.
Yes.
When you think about that moment where you started running, or maybe around the time when you started running when you were 8, what are some of the words that come to mind during that time of explaining, defining that period?
The first word that comes to mind is fun. That's really what drew me to running when I was 8. It was a fun social activity. I played soccer, and then one of my best friends started running track, and I decided that it would be more fun to do a sport with my friends. Even though I enjoyed soccer a ton, it mattered more to me to just be doing something where I was hanging out with my friends. So I moved over to track also, and kind of never looked back. And I'm really grateful. I got my start with Jaguar Track Club, where we trained 3 times a week. We ran in the hallways of our local public high school, and we just had fun with it. I'm grateful that I grew up in track in a way that prioritized that fun. where we did workouts, but we also played games after practice. Yeah. And I think that really set me up to become the runner that I am today.
Yeah, I mean, I can similarly speak to that from an experience, not quite at 8, but 14 was when I started, which was actually at the time pretty late. But my coach I've always talked about, my coach absolutely was like, I do not want you running your best age 14 to 18. I want you to peak when you're in your 20s, maybe even beyond. And how that was everything. So maybe for listeners, how is that maybe different to other 8-year-olds who kind of show some early promise or begin to run at that age?
Yeah, I think that there is so much specialization in sport these days, and not just track. In any sport, you see kids going to camps and learning, lifting weights and learning specialized movements and drills for their various sports at younger and younger ages. And I think that early specialization in sport really harms it. It really takes the fun out of it. Can take the fun out of things. Mm-hmm. And similar to you and your coach that you had when you were 14, I have had coaches throughout my entire career who prioritized my longevity. I mean, from Jaguars through high school, even in college, Coach Milt, who coached me at Stanford and is now coaching at UNC, and Coach Sanders as well, really prioritized saying, hey, like, you can be really great in college, but I know that you're going to make a great pro. Mm-hmm. And so they prioritized not burning me out in college, and I have reaped the benefits of that as a professional.
Yeah, which shows the maturity. You got to have a lot of maturity and a lack of ego doing this coaching for the right reasons if you are someone who is able to do that. Because it is not easy to do, to say, I'm not going to be the one that gets to kind of like say, oh, I did that, and I'm their coach while they're, doing these amazing things. It takes a lot of maturity to be able to say, yeah, I could be that person, but I'm not, because I believe in the future. So I always like to talk about this topic because I think it's so important. How do you keep that, you said about joy and fun as an 8-year-old? How do you keep that in your training with 2024, Olivia?
Yeah, we continue to have fun at practice and at meets. I think it's not the same as playing cheetahs and gazelles and running around the parking lot in the school hallways at practice like we did when I was 8. But I still find fun in a lot of things as a pro, like the travel, for instance. One of my favorite parts of the job. I love getting to race overseas in Europe over the summer and go there and meet other fellow runners who are also racing at the meet and just explore different countries together. Or even on the day-to-day at practice, Coach Tommy keeps it fun with our speed development sessions. Just last Monday, it started to snow during our session, and we were doing some drills in the snow, catching snowflakes in our mouths and things like that. Again, just keeping it light and fun. For the other day, 2 weeks ago at speed development, Coach Tommy had us do these like football drills where he says go and you like turn over and then you get up and you run across the field as fast as you can. And it's just things like that, the little things, keeping practice fun and having teammates who lean into that and enjoy that alongside me make this journey all the more special. Absolutely. Yeah. Having that lightness to the energy of the group, the culture. The culture can be everything with a coaching group. And I love that you've found a group who supports that and continues to, as you said, lean into that finding fun ways to keep it interesting, keep it exciting, and keep your heart in it. Because if and I want to go on to ask you about periods of your life, I'm sure there have been where you've got to invest in it and kind of lost who you are in the process. With that, so I said about you starting at 8, you said about, coaches recognizing along the way that they wanted to have you have a focus on longevity and what you could do, when you were fully at the age to be able to turn pro and really give it a go.
that said, it wasn't like you were just sitting on your hands and training once a week and racing the occasional local meet. You did win 13 state titles, never lost a 400 to anyone from New Jersey in high school, and got to compete for the US at the 2013 Under-18 Championships, finishing second in the 400. And also, ran again in the 2014. So with that, when this started to really come together, did you go through a period of time where maybe the pressure started to add of like, oh, actually, I'm really good at this. I don't want to mess it up.
Definitely. Throughout my high school years, especially being undefeated in the 400 in the state of New Jersey, I did feel the pressure. I think that was probably one of the times of my life when I felt the most pressure. I literally used to be afraid of losing. Like, it was a legitimate fear in my heart. And it wasn't until actually that 2013 team, when I sat down with a sports psychologist for the first time, that I got to start working through that. And just having someone to talk through and realize, again, untangling, the first question you asked me was kind of about identity and like, who are you outside of running? And I think that in 2013, working with a sports psychologist and really beginning to understand and untangle that identity from from who I was, realizing that I was more than an athlete, helped me work through that fear of losing and turn my eyes towards more positive things regarding running. I'd also be remiss if I didn't mention my faith as a huge part of that. Like, being not just an athlete, but a Christian athlete, and learning how to surrender that identity to Jesus Christ, and my whole identity, to be honest, and let him use it for his glory and not try to take that gift and use it for my own glory. And being able to just let that go, in a sense, has been something that has really helped me get over that fear and release the pressure of chasing after outcomes, and really let God handle that.
Which is a hard lesson to learn for anyone, to let go of the outcome, to not pin too much on your achievements, especially as you're climbing up, and as you said, but being in a place where you were I'm missing the word. What is the word? Where you haven't
Afraid?
No. Like, you haven't been beaten by anyone.
Unbeatable?
No.
Undefeated.
Undefeated. I was like, I know that's a word. Where you were undefeated. You mentioned about the psychologist starting to open this up for you. Do you remember what they said to you at that time to kind of begin that journey?
Ooh, I don't remember her exact words. I remember that first session, though, sitting down and just processing through actually a race I had before high school. It was a 4x4 that haunted me. I think it was the first really, really close race that I lost right at the line, and it stung so bad because I was the anchor leg and my team was relying on me. We were the top 4x4 team in the nation, and I didn't execute the race as well as I could have. I tried really hard, but I literally fell over the line that race, and I think we lost by maybe less than 1/10 of a second. It was a photo finish, and I still have that photo to this day. And I remember sitting down with a sports psychologist and processing through that memory and that loss that had haunted me for so long to that point. And her just helping me use it to strengthen me instead of dwelling on that loss and how it felt and being afraid of feeling that again. I think that was where the conversation started, was learning how to not be afraid of that anticipate rather the feeling of losing, but focus on, well, what if I win? What if I execute my best race? What if I do my best? And even if that best isn't enough, I can still walk away with my head held high, because you can only control, your effort and the parts of the race that you can control, and leave the rest to be what it may.
By now, you probably know I am not a fan of New Year's resolutions. I don't believe in the New Year, New You hype. I think we should be continually striving to be the best version of ourselves we can be, but in the way that feels right for us, not trying to be what we are told to be. Most resolutions are hard to maintain. AG1, however, is one of the easiest things that you can do for your health. It is one of the easiest things I do for my health, and it can be a habit you'll actually stick with. I love that every morning I come down the stairs and I enjoy my AG1. It is the first thing I do. I feel good after taking it, knowing that no matter what my food consists of during the day, no matter how the day takes a turn with my nutrition, I have taken care of myself. I've done something for my own self-care. And besides, I feel good after drinking it. I enjoy the taste. I crave it if I don't have it, and it gets me off on the right start to the day. This year, try AG1 for yourself. It's the perfect time to start a new habit. And that's why I've been partnering with AG1 for over 6 years. And AG1 is offering new subscribers a free $76 gift when you sign up. You'll get a welcome kit, a bottle of D3K2, and 5 free travel packs in your first box. Make sure you check out drinkag1.com/Tina to get this offer. That's drinkag1.com/Tina to start your new year on a healthier note. Yeah. And actually, it's interesting you say you said that one of my good friends is a psychologist, and he always says to me about if you're gonna catastrophize, what if this happens, what if that happens, then you have to go through all the what if this happens, but all the good ones. So what if you win? What if you get a PR? What if it goes right? What if the weather is perfect? And I think that's such a beautiful trick. Is it would be trick tool that psychologists have, because we do tend to think of every negative that could happen, but it's only fair that we also do the same positive. So I love that your psychologist, instilled that in you. And has the fear of failure come back into the picture at any point since then?
Oh, absolutely. Mm-hmm. I think it's easy for my mind to trail towards that even today. But like you said, that's a tool that I reach out to frequently. For every bad what if that sneaks into my head while I'm warming up for a race, nowadays I replace it with a good what if. And stay focused on those things instead.
Are there any other tools that you've learned along the way like that you also use in those moments for fear of failure? Because I think that's quite a common thing that many listeners can probably relate to. Maybe for them it's not at the Olympic trials, but it might be they've been working really hard on a race and now they're stressed that it's a few weeks to go and they don't feel like, what if it goes wrong? Any other tools you've learned along the way that could help?
Absolutely. Along the lines of mental refocusing of the what ifs, I like to employ physical refocusing too. Like when I'm running at practice or running in a race and my legs start to burn or my calves start to burn, redirecting that focus to say, hey, well, my calves are burning, but my arms are okay. Mm-hmm. Or if my arms start to burn, when it gets really bad, I'll be like, my nose is doing really well right now. How about my forehead? That feels really good right now. And it helps me push through some of those harder moments. I guess maybe that's not in the lead up, but if on a day when, say, you're not feeling 100%, or I know for me, I never wake up on race day feeling perfect or exactly how I want my body to feel. Yeah. but refocusing on the things that do feel good and are feeling good even before a race and during a race is another strategy that helps me a lot.
That. Yeah, I actually had that one told to me when I was a teenager as well. I distinctly remember a Great Britain athlete at an international race, and a Great Britain athlete said that exact thing to me. And I still remember it. So that's funny. Thank you, Sharon Morris, if you happen to be listening to this. That's so funny. And such a good one because, yeah, as you said, like if your legs are feeling tired or your legs are cramping up, you can say, okay, but I can still drive my arms forward. So that's a really great tool there. Thank you so much for that.
Absolutely.
Was there anything else from high school being that successful that you think is important to share or want to talk through, knowing that the listeners may have certain, preconceived thoughts about, to win 13 state titles, to compete for the US, it must come fairly naturally to you, easily to you, or something else?
I don't have too much to add. I think that, the talent is a blessing, and that time in high school was a really magical time. I think if I could have said something back to my former self in high school, it would have been to enjoy it more. I wish I didn't spend so much time being scared about whether or not I was going to lose the next race, and really took more time to soak in how special that time was.
Yeah.
So if there are any high schoolers out there listening, that's my advice. Enjoy it. High school racing is so unique and such a fun time. Great opportunity to enjoy the sport.
Absolutely. Which is often the opposite of what you see with high schoolers. At least the ones that reach out to me are definitely not in I wouldn't say fun is the first word that comes to mind for their sport. It's intensity is maybe the word I would use. Were you able to take that approach into college? Same thing, 11-time All-American, successful. Were you able to keep some level of fun and enjoying it in there then?
Oh, definitely.
Great.
Yeah, college was fun in a different way from high school and different from now as a pro. But the college team atmosphere, again, was another place that I really enjoyed running. I mean, just the camaraderie, getting to run relays all the time. That's something that I miss as a pro, and something I hope to get back to doing a little bit more with the team that I'm on. But yeah, something about like having a DMR at the NCAA indoor championships, or for me getting to consistently race on 4x4s and eventually anchor our 4x4 in college was so much fun and something that really brought me closer to my college teammates.
Yeah, I want to pull on that you said about DMR for listeners. That's distance medley relay, which is, let me try and remember, 1200, 400, 800?
Mm-hmm.
And then, what was the last one? Mile.
1600 or mile, yes.
So you have these different distances mixed together. You mentioned that one specifically, not just the 4x4 you didn't say 4x4 indoor and outdoor. You mentioned the DMR like first. You said about the camaraderie with your teammates. What was special about that one that you were, I'm assuming getting to run with people who otherwise you kind of maybe said hi to on the way to practice, but it wasn't like a interactive thing. What was it that you enjoyed most about that one?
Oh, just the camaraderie. I remember it's the first relay that I got to run at the national level. My freshman year, I ran the 400 leg on the DMR at NCAA. And yeah, like you said, getting to chat with and just hang out with teammates who I otherwise didn't train with at all at the time or really get to hang out with much and get to know them and where they came from in running was the fun part. And I remember on that trip, we were in Arkansas my freshman year, and I think I was the only one. Yeah, I was the only one from the sprint group on the women's side. We had one sprinter on the men's side because the men's DMR also made nationals that year.
Uh-huh.
But I was the only one on the women's side in sprints. And so I just I kind of was either forced to be by myself or hang out with the distance runners that weekend. And had it not been for that relay, I'm not sure I would be as close to my teammates on the distance side of the team today. I mean, I remember I still keep in touch with Elise Cranny, who anchored our relay that year. Jess Ton, now Jeff McLean, and Claudia Saunders.
Wow, yeah.
And yeah, two
That's
out of three
awesome.
of them are, still.
Yeah,
I still see them around at meets these days.
For sure. No, that's really special. And yeah, the DMR, if those of you listening, if you haven't looked one up or seen one, I definitely encourage you to go check it out. If you have the opportunity to. It is a really fun, electric, exciting event. I loved it anytime I got the opportunity to do that in college. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. So college was an exciting time for you in that sense that you had the teammates, you had you were doing well in your running, both on relays and individually. When did the thought first enter your head of, okay, I think I want to continue this? Or let me rephrase this. When was the first time you really made a serious kind of commitment in your mind that I want to do this? Because I'm assuming it had kind of been in there somewhat since high school. So when did you really decide, okay, I think I want to continue and go pro, or try and go pro?
I'd have to say 2016. Until that point, I always thought, I want to make the Olympics. I want to race at the Olympics. I think I have a shot at getting a medal at the Olympics. And then, I'd be ready to move on to med school a couple of years after that. And so 2016, sophomore year in college, I raced at the Olympic trials, and it's actually my highest Olympic trials finish to this point. I finished 10th. I missed out on making the final by like 2 or 3/10 of a second. It was really close. And I remember at that point thinking, I can't give up on this. Like I need to come back and take another swing at making this Olympic team before I go to med school. And yeah, so I would say 2016 is when I really decided, hey, I want to commit to being a professional athlete, at least for a few years.
Yeah. And why then, when it did come to time, the decision to go to Atlanta Track Club? What was it about that Atlanta and the track club specifically that drew you in?
Well, at the time, that was in 2021, shortly after the Olympic trials, after I raced and I once again didn't end up making the Olympic team. I had been living and training professionally in Texas the previous 3 years since graduating college. And it wasn't an easy decision. I think that I knew after my performance at trials that I needed a change. And at the time, my coaches were Amy and Andrew Begley, or the coaches at Atlanta Track Club were Amy and Andrew Begley. I had chatted with them. They had actually recruited me in 2020 before the trial, so I was already familiar with them. And at the time, I decided that I wanted to stay where I was and give it a shot one more time. I didn't want to make such a big change going into an Olympic year. But after that, so I was familiar with Amy and Andrew and their coaching, and I thought that it would be a good fit for me. And then additionally, Atlanta Track Club as a whole, just the way that they're integrated in the running community, all that they do for the sport of running, made me want to be a part of that culture. And since being here, I've gotten to see it firsthand, how much the people who work here love running, are committed to making people healthier and introducing them to running and just throwing back into this wonderful community. I knew that it was a place for me because I wanted to go somewhere where I could do more than just run.
Yeah. And Atlanta running community is growing fast. It's kind of cool to see it developing. So, anything else you want to say on Atlanta or the run community in Atlanta before we move on?
Just that I love it. I know a bunch of people in the running community will hear this podcast, and I just want to say I'm grateful to everyone for allowing me to join this community and making me feel at home as a part of it.
Awesome.
There's so many people outside of my team who I've shared runs with, who I've met at little Runners Who Read meetups or through our book club, or who I've seen at group runs, who have made my time in Atlanta so special. So thank you all.
Would you like to wish my Brighton base layer from Tracksmith a happy 6th birthday? Because it is coming up on 6 years since I received that first Brighton base layer. I am wearing it right now. I wear it for my runs. I wear it in my days. It is this seamless, lightweight women's long sleeve or men's long sleeve, if that's the one you prefer, made from an engineered merino mesh. Merino is a fantastic material that can be used to avoid odors, and it can handle multiple days in a row. There is good reason for this Brighton base long sleeve as the Tracksmith best-selling. It has this stunningly soft moisture wicking blend that regulates temperature and is impervious to odor. They designed it as a training base layer so you can wear it under a mid layer or a jacket, but it actually can be worn on its own, and I do wear it on its own multiple times. It's not too tight to wear all by itself. It is got loose slightly on the midsection so that you can keep yourself cool as you warm up during your run. It is just the perfect long sleeve. As a friend of mine, you can get yourself $15 off your order of $75 or more. Go get yourself one of those Brighton base layers by going to tracksmith.com. Use code TINANEW to get yourself $15 off your order of $75 or more. Oh, well, I'm sure they will appreciate that and feel the same right back at you. So then you've been a professional athlete for 6 years. What are some of the biggest things that you've learned in that time? 6 years is a good amount of time to have really had some real lows and also some highs, and you have. So what have you learned along the way?
Yeah, it's a blessing to still be doing this after 6 years and to be entering my 7th professional running season. Like, just saying that is... It's just insane to think about. But yeah, I'm grateful to still be here, to still have the love of the sport. Insofar as lessons, I think the biggest one is to be consistent. Like and that's in everything, in training. Part of what has gotten me this far is the fact that I've been able to be healthy for most of my career. Yep. And just continue year over year to put in consistent training blocks that continuously build on each other. But also, I think it's important to be consistent mentally. Mm-hmm. You mentioned the highs and the lows. I have been through a lot of them, and I think it's important not to get too high or not to get too low after races. Another one of those mental strategies I learned from the sports psychologist who I work with now. I mentioned his name. Shout out to Chris Stanley. Is that either way, like, you take 24 hours, win or lose, to feel what you are going to feel after the race. Whether that's celebration. For me, if I win a race or I PR, I might go get a milkshake, or my most recent PR dessert was a cupcake from one of my favorite bakeries back home. Enjoy it, celebrate, and then after 24 hours, back to work. Or even after a bad race, same thing, 24 hours, feel the feels, be down in the dumps, cry, lay on my bed and stare at the ceiling if I have to, whatever we need to do, and then get back to it, get back after it, and work to do better.
Is that because you had in the past not been able to move on? Like, you had kind of dwelled on, kind of got stuck in it for quite a while?
Yes, absolutely. With bad races, I definitely got stuck in it for quite a while. I think I mentioned to you that race that had been on my mind in 2013. The race that I had mentioned let's see, 2013 was my junior year of high school. That race happened when I was in 6th grade. So I would say, yeah, for a while I had a hard time getting over the losses.
Okay.
And yeah, this mental strategy has helped me be consistent mentally as well as physically in my training.
Mm-hmm. So with that, I want to talk through, you've run in 3 Olympic trials, correct? 1 in college and 2 as a professional athlete. None of them have maybe got the result you hoped for. The second 2 definitely stung more than the first one, being that was your first experience. I really would like to speak to you in your social media post following the 2024 Olympic trials. You talked about being devastated, crushed were the 2 words you used, and relentlessly hopeful and determined. Can you talk about that piece at that time of, immediately in the aftermath of it, being able to hold those 2 things in your heart at the same time?
Yeah. It wasn't easy. I mean, missing out on this goal that I've worked towards now for almost my entire life. The words devastating and crushed were accurate. It was really, really hard. I remember waking up the next morning and just feeling sad about it. But I just know in my heart, like there's just this feeling in my heart, and maybe I would feel differently if there wasn't that hope. Like I still believe that there are faster times ahead of me, that I haven't seen my final PRs, at least in my main events, not in the 400, 800 or 1500. And I think that is really leaning into that feeling is what helped me get through that Olympic trials disappointment. It's just this relentless hope inside of me that I'm going to do better next time, that there will be another opportunity, and that maybe next time I will make that team.
So the goal is to continue training for the 2028 Olympics. Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. If you'd asked me 6 months ago or so, right after trials, I might have told you that I'm not sure. But at this point, yes, definitely. I want to try for 2028.
Okay. And so with that, you said, 6 months ago, I wouldn't have said that. What are some other things looking back now? Can you reflect on your prelim, your semi? What are some things you can look at now that you maybe couldn't look at back then?
I think that now, when I look back at that semifinal race, I'm actually really proud of the way that I executed it. At the time, I was disappointed that I didn't make the final. But looking back on it, I think it's one of my best executed races of the season. And I just didn't, it was one of those days that I just didn't have it in the last 50 meters. I ran out of steam to make it across the finish line, unfortunately. And I think that's the reflection that I've come to this point.
And were any of the 3 people that did make it friends of yours?
Yeah.
And so can you talk to that? Like, what is that like for listeners who may not know? Like, you are devastated, you're crushed, but you also want to celebrate your friend. You want to appreciate, support your friend and be happy for your friend. What is that like, holding those 2 things together?
It is not easy, but I think that we all know as competitors that those 2 or so minutes that we race, like it is to the line. And I think that no one would have it any other way. And that you give your best, and your best is all you have. But the second you cross that finish line, you go back to being friends, to the sportsmanship, and the love of the sport that joined you all together. And I think that's something that I lean into is I want to see the best people go to the Olympics for the US. And if it's not me on that given day, then it's not me. And I'm always pulling for that outcome, that the best 3 people would get selected for the team on any given day. And even as someone watching the final and seeing, a Thingmo get tripped up and fall and have other people kind of falling around her and have the race, the outcome, I wouldn't say determined is too strong a word, but impacted by that was really sad to see.
Yeah.
And I think that my hope is always that, that the races would go off cleanly and that the best 3 people would make the team.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, very emotionally mature to be able to say that and recognize that you want to win, you want to run against everyone on their best day, not because they had something go wrong with them. So, I appreciate that you sharing that with us. And that's something that we all kind of can be reminded of from time to time. And with reminding, you said also in that same social media post, there's so much more to running than the results on paper. And occasionally I need to be reminded of that. What did you mean by that back then?
Yeah, that it's so easy to get wrapped up in the outcome. And I meant that literally. There is so much more to running. There's sportsmanship and camaraderie. There is encouragement and inspiration for the next generation of runners. There is, there's fun, even though it doesn't feel like it all the time. And especially in times like those, there's fun. There's blessing in even having the ability and the opportunity to get out there and compete. And to just show that physical ability, the gifts that I've been given, on that stage. So I mean, there are all those things and I could list even more.
No, I love that it prompted you to do that reflection, on a time when it could be very easy to, just get stuck on, but the only goal was the Olympic team and I didn't do that. So I really appreciate you sharing that because it's true for all of us. And now we can support you as you go for the next one and make that team in 2028, which of course will be LA. So, it's a very good one to continue to go towards. I want to ask you about something a bit off the wall that I read about you, but I absolutely loved that you have your eye someday on doing the Backyard Ultra.
Yeah.
I mean, that I did not expect to read that, but where did that come from?
Oh man, it came from just hearing about it, actually.
Can you share with listeners what it is if they don't know?
Yeah. So Backyard Ultra is an ultra marathon where you run one lap of this, I guess, quote unquote, backyard course. The lap it's a little over 4 miles. It's like 4.1 miles. And you do it every hour on the hour until you're the last person standing or until you just can't complete a lap. And I've seen this race, I want to say last year, someone did almost 90 laps.
I know.
Which is like
just
almost 4 days worth of running 4 miles every hour on the hour. And I think that if I was an ultra marathoner, that's the type of race that I would want to do.
Why? What is it about
because
that?
I love the sheer
like last person
to
standing.
The will. Yeah, like the last person standing. Like I don't like as much the idea of trying to do 100-mile race or like a 50K or something like that. Because I think that it's like when you have a finish line, it's just a little bit different mentally, even though that finish line is 100 miles away. I like the sheer idea of like will against will in that type of backyard ultra. setting.
I get that. Has anyone ever approached you about having you get involved with it?
No, not yet. But I do have a friend with some connections. I don't know if you know of Allison Mercer. She's someone that I regularly run with in Atlanta. She's the best. She always lets me run with her for parts of her run. She's an ultra marathoner herself. One of the best, actually. She owns the American record, Masters American record at 50K.
Wow. Awesome.
And it is really fast. Like, I mean it when I say I'm trying to keep up with her on her run.
Oh yeah, I know how those ultra runners can be. It is hard to imagine how they hold these paces for such a long time. So she does backyard ultras. And
no, I don't think she's ever done backyard ultra.
So maybe it'd be something you do together.
She runs in ultra circles. Yeah, I mean, she said to me, "Hey, just let me know when you're ready to join the ultra world." And
you better be careful what you wish for. Someone will come along with it. Okay, Olivia, is there anything else you would like to share with the listeners, remind the listeners, or just leave them a parting message that, you think is important to remember, regardless of where they're at in their running journey?
Oh, what is my parting message? Have fun. I mean, at the end of the day, I would hope that running is not just beneficial from a health standpoint for everyone, but that everyone would have fun. There's a space in the running community for any and everyone. And that's something that I love about this community. There's so much diversity. There's so much from sprinting to ultra marathoning and everything in between. And I know for all the listeners, there's a space for you too, should you so choose to find it. And that's my message. I
love that. Thank you so much. Well, we will continue to follow along with how your journey goes towards the Olympic trials and going to get those faster times that are in there. Even though for the listeners, your PRs in the 400 and 800 are already unfathomable to them as just as the same as 90 laps of a 4-mile loop is unfathomable to us too. I appreciate you sharing with us just the energy and lightness you bring to the world and reminding us to keep it fun. Thank you so much for joining me. And I look forward to seeing what is in the years to come.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Before we go any further, I just want to give a quick shout out to the Running for Real team. Without them, I would not be able to do barely anything compared to what I'm able to do today. They are behind the scenes. They are there for me. I am just so appreciative of them. To Jeremy Nessel, our podcast editor, audio consultant, and someone who's been with me since the start. To Sally Pontarelli, our content and operations manager, who is there day to day doing all the things to help me be successful. To Kelsey Wang, our head of design, and Louise Murphy, our associate designer. And finally, to Sandy Gutierrez, our photographer and content strategist. I am appreciative of all of you and wouldn't be able to do what I do without you. I really enjoyed that conversation with Olivia, and I hope you learned a lot too, especially about dealing with disappointment at the highest level and how to keep yourself invested and in there. You can find links to everything we talked about today in the show notes at runningforreal.com/episode 432. I want to take a moment to thank our partners for today, Runna, to AG1, to Tracksmith, and be sure to go sign up for those free tickets for the Boston Run Show. They can again be found at runningforreal.com/episode 432. Thank you so much for listening, my friends. I will see you next week.